Dear students, in the previous session of the video, we have discussed about the various aspects of interactions among the population, right? The previous interaction that we had studied was actually the parasitism. Under parasitism, we had studied different types of parasitism, ectoparasitism, endoparasitism, and the brood parasitism. And I hope you can remember the examples of different types of parasites as well. And in today's video, let us discuss about the next type of interactions among the population called commensalism. I hope you can recall from the table that we had seen, right? So where we had mentioned the different types of competitions, and we also had taken into an account of how two species involved in any interaction are going to have an impact. So what will be the result of the interaction of the two species involved in the interaction? So if you look into that chart and if you try to recall from that chart, so the commensalism is one such interaction between two species or two populations wherein you will see the two species A and B involved. One of the two will be benefited and the other one will be neither benefited nor it will be harmed. That means, so one will remain neutral. Only the other will get benefited. That kind of competition, that kind of interaction is what is called as what? Commensalism, right? I hope you can recall it from the table also, right? And so as you can see, the definition of the commensalism here, this is an interaction in which one species benefits and the other is neither harmed nor benefited, right? So this can be the definition for commensalism. Now let us look at the examples of commensalism in different organisms. See, you can look at this particular diagram or picture. So this is actually what you're seeing, a big thing, that is what is nothing but the whale, right? And on this whale you are seeing the accommodation or adherence of different barnacles. Barnacles are the sea-living organisms. They are marine animals, smaller animals, which get stuck on the body of the whale. In this case, what is happening actually is the whale is neither getting benefited nor harmed, but the barnacles sitting on the body of the whale, they will actually be taken all the time. It will be carried away by the whale, traveling, that means as they are immotile, as they are non-motile, so they can be carried away along with the whale's body. Plus, they will absorb the food from the whale. So that means shelter and food is provided by the whale. In fact, whale is not getting anything in return. So whale remains neutral here, right? And the barnacles are getting benefited. So this is a kind of commensalism that we see in the case of the animals. The other example we can see in the case of the plants. So you are seeing what? You are seeing a big, completely mature stem of a big tree. And on this mature stem, you are seeing a small plant. This is actually a small epiphytic plant. Epiphytic plant. Okay, this is an orchid. Especially this is species. In order to name the species, this is Vanda. Vanda is the name of the species. So this orchid species growing on the stem of this big tree, so usually mango tree or any other big tree for that matter. So see, you can see some roots here. So these are called as sucking roots or hostorial roots. These white roots, can you observe here? So these are the sucking roots or hostorial roots with which the plant body will be able to absorb the required nutrition as well as the moisture from the body of the main plant body or the host plant body here, right? So that means, so though it is actually photosynthesizing with green leaves, but largely, so for many raw materials which are required for photosynthesis, for minerals and other nutrients, so this small plant depends upon this bigger plant. But this plant, the mango tree, if you consider, that will neither be getting benefited nor it will be harmed, but only this will actually draw the benefit from the main plant body. So this is a kind of example of commensalism in the case of plants, right? So another example, grazing cattle and cattle egret. So this is a common scene, the common thing that you have already observed if you stay very close to the agricultural fields, right? Commonly everybody of you must have observed this. See, in the cattle field, especially in the agricultural fields, when the cattle are grazing, right? So during then you will see such birds, and these are called as cattle egrets. And these cattle egret birds, they will be always surrounding the grazing cattle. ಮೇಯ್ತಾ ಇರುವ ದನಕರುಗಳ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಹಕ್ಕಿಗಳಿವು. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, see, what happens here is that these birds, they mainly feed upon the small insects, and these insects may be present in the grass here. And we have also learnt about one more thing, especially, see, when we talk about this cattle egret and the insect, so that we can correlate with the predation. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ bird ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, that becomes the predator. Insect ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, that is the prey, right? So we have learnt in the type of interaction called predation, what there is a kind of adaptation or defense mechanism shown by the prey in order to escape from the predator. Yes or no? Have you learnt or not? See, in this case, the insects, they tend to have a defense mechanism of camouflage. They will hide themselves in this grass, and that is why it may be difficult for these birds to find out those insects which are hidden in the grass. But what happens here, when the cattle are grazing here in the field, they obviously disturb, and insects will tend to fly away. And those insects which are flying away can be caught by these birds. Yes, this is a kind of benefit they are actually receiving because of the presence of the cow. But cow is neither getting benefited nor it is going to be harmed. And in one more way, this you can see, the birds may be sitting on the back of the cow also. See, cow will never feel it heavy. It is not harming in any way. But this bird may be getting benefited because it may feed on small ticks or lices present on the body of the cow. So that is also one of the benefits for this bird. So this is a great example of what? Commensalism in the case of the animals again. Let us see another example, especially in the marine ecosystem. So have you heard about sea anemone? I think you have come across the sea anemone in the coelentrates in the first PU itself, right? So we are talking about the commensalism in sea anemone and a kind of fish called clownfish. See, you can look at this beautiful picture. So this is actually a marine ecosystem picture, and this structure what you are seeing. So these are the stinging tentacles of the sea anemone. Sea anemone gottide nimage. So sea anemones, coelentrates alli they will be usually having what? Tentacles anta nimage gottide, right? So these are the tentacles of the sea anemone, and this is a kind of fish called clownfish. It will reside on the body of, not in the body, but on the body of this sea anemone, but it tends to hide itself in these stinging tentacles. By doing so, the fish is protected from its predators. The fish is being protected from its predators. ಆದರೆ ಇದರಿಂದಾಗಿ ಫಿಶ್ ಇದರ ಬಾಡಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದಾಗಿ ಸಿ ಅನಿಮೋನಿಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿ ಬೆನಿಫಿಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲ. Only the fish is getting benefited by getting protection from its predators, right? So, but the sea anemone will not receive any help or any benefit. So these are the 4 examples of commensalism, and so you need to remember the examples of the commensalism, definition of the commensalism, right? I hope you have understood about commensalism. Now moving on to the next type of interaction, what we call it as mutualism, right? So this is a common English word, mutual, right? You have all come across this word, isn't it? So mutual andre ಏನು ಹಾಗಾದ್ರೆ? Mutual ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ it is ಒಬ್ಬರಿಗೊಬ್ಬರು ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಅಲ್ವಾ, mutualism. So the same thing happens here also in the case of the animals. So mutual relationship you have come across, especially in the chapter of mineral nutrition. So you have come across symbiotic association of the bacteria and the plant body. ಕಲ್ತಿದ್ದೀರಲ್ವಾ? So there symbiotic association happens with the bacteria and the plant body, mainly for the nitrogen fixation, and in turn the bacteria will receive what? the nutrition from the plant body. Yes. So the same thing you can expect. Many such examples we can give here, and that is what we call it as mutualism, right? Or it's also called as symbiotic association or symbiotic interaction between the organisms, right? So this is a kind of interaction in which both the organisms are benefited. So it is give and take policy. So I think you have heard about, especially in the social science, in the lower classes, you have heard about a kind of system called barter system. Kododu tagododu, alva? So there was no money, there was no currency then, and that is why people used to exchange some useful goods, right, between them. So a similar kind of relation or interaction that is happening with organisms here, two different species of organisms. So one will offer a kind of benefit to the other, in turn it will get another some other kind of benefit. So that is what is called as mutualism. This is the definition of mutualism that you are seeing here. Let us see the examples of mutualism. See, a very well-known example of mutualism, right? Symbiotic association anta ಹೇಳಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ನಿಮ್ಮ ತಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋದು ಎರಡು, ಒಂದು ಲೈಕೆನ್ಸ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಯಾವುದು? Yes. So if you can recall from the plant kingdom chapter or biological classification chapter, the other example that you come across is mycorrhiza, right? So lichens alli enagutte? So in the case of lichens, it is an association between the photosynthetic algae and the fungi, right? So you have come across the two components of the lichens. Which are the two components of the lichens? Can you recall? The two components of the lichens are called as phycobiont and mycobiont. Phycobiont represents the algae, which is photosynthetic, right? And mycobiont represents what? It represents the fungi, which depends upon the what? Phycobiont. So fungi is getting benefited from the algae by absorbing the food. But how the algae is getting benefited from the fungi? It is getting benefited because, see, you can see the thread-like structures which are spreading all over here. Actually, they are the mycelia of what? The fungus. What is the body of the fungus called? It is called hypha. The network-like structure of the fungus that is formed by many hyphae is called as what? Mycelium, right? So these are the mycelia that spread and they will tend to absorb a lot of food or nutrition and also moisture from the atmosphere, and this will be supplied to the algae. So that helps the algae to prepare the food for photosynthesis process, and in turn this fungus will receive the prepared food, right? So that is how, that means especially in the form of carbohydrates. Right. So this is about the lichens. It's a kind of mutual relationship between the algae and fungi. And this is another where again there is a participation of plant and fungi, especially the association of the fungi with the roots of some higher plants. Roots of some higher plants are associated with a certain species of fungi. Yakidu? Because you kaltidiri again, mycorrhiza means what? See, again, I think I must have told you in the CET class, one of the CET classes, mycorrhiza, there are two different types of mycorrhiza. One is ectomycorrhiza and the other is endomycorrhiza. I hope you can remember. Anyway, see, mycorrhiza means association between the fungi and the roots of the plant, where the roots are getting benefited. The plant body will be getting benefited from the fungi in absorbing a lot of nutrition. You know that root is the structure of the plant body which actually helps in the absorption of the water and minerals from the soil. But at the same time, the roots sometimes cannot penetrate into the finest of the soil particles, and that is why they may fail to reach to those traces of the water or minerals. Isn't it? So that work can be done by a very slender, a very thin hyphae of the fungi that help for the plant body to absorb the mineral nutrition from the remote parts, right? And that is how, and in turn, the plant body will provide the nutrition in the form of carbohydrates to the fungal body. So this both are getting benefited here. This is a kind of mutualistic relationship. That is what is called as mycorrhiza, right? And so other aspects of the mutualism here, the best example, another best example here is plant pollinator relationship or plant pollinator interaction. Again, going back to the second chapter, You have learnt about different types of pollinations. You know what is a pollination, right? I need not repeat the pollination process here. You know that pollination is getting carried out by what? Two different types of agents, broadly classified into abiotic and biotic pollinators. You all know this. So especially when we consider the biotic pollinators, so pollination will be carried out by what? The living organisms. It may be bats, it can be human beings, it can be any type of insect, it can be rats, it can be any kind of rodents, it can be any type of mammals, right? So whatever type of living organism it can be, it will be referred to as what? Biotic pollination. And this is a kind of mutualistic relationship. How? See, if you imagine an insect to be a pollinator, obviously insect will be gifted, it will be rewarded, or it is just like giving a fees. Plant body will offer the fees or reward for those organisms which are helping the pollination to take place. Right? In what form? Maybe in the form of pollen grain, maybe in the form of nectar, right? Pollen grains are very nutritious, that you have come across again in the same chapter. And nectar is also rich with sugars or carbohydrates, right? And that will be taken away by by many insects. And also these plants, especially for seed dispersal, not only for pollination, also for seed dispersal, they offer very delicious, very nutritious and very tasteful, very attractive fruits. Right? So all the animals, almost all the animals, they eat away the fruits and they throw away or leave out the seeds, and that is how the plant body will get benefited for seed dispersal. Mutually both are getting benefited. Right? So here, that is what I was talking. Plants offer fees or rewards in the form of nectar or nutritious and tasteful fruits. Right? And also sometimes the pollen grains. But it happens like this. Especially plants which are involved in such kind of biotic pollination, sometimes they will get what? Deceived, or they will get cheated. Because of pollinators which can be referred to as cheaters. Cheating pollination takes place or deceptive pollination takes place. See, what happens here is that sometimes insects, they visit the flowers, they only take away the nectar or the pollen grain and will not cause any type of pollination. In that case, plants will not be benefited, only the insect will be benefited, right? Can we refer to it as a kind of commensalism, where only one organism is benefited and the other, okay, you cannot refer it as a commensalism also, you may refer it to as what? Any other kind of interaction where one is benefited and the other is harmed. You can think of which interaction you can refer it to. Yes? So, in that case, plants having a mutual interaction with pollinators also maybe have to be safeguarded because of the cheaters, so which will take away the nectar or the pollen grain without causing the pollination. See, this kind of interaction, maybe it is cheater, maybe it is a successful pollination there, right? Successful mutualistic relationship. Because of this, both the species which are involved in the mutualistic relationship, maybe it is a pollinator or maybe the plant body, both will get evolved in order to adjust with each other, right? See, it is also true that it is not that any insect can pollinate any plant species, or in other words, any plant species can be pollinated by any insect. It is not true. There is specificity again. So a particular species of insect can go and pollinate a particular species of the plant body, right? So when this specificity is there, in order to adapt or in order to adjust with each other, they have to evolve. If one develops a kind of adaptation or a kind of variation, the other also have to adjust with the changes that are adapted by the other organism. Otherwise, so this will be a failure in forming a mutualistic relationship. So this leads to what? Co-evolution in the mutualists which are actually involved in the mutualistic relationship. The other example we can consider, one more successful, is nothing but wasp and fig mutualistic relationship. See, I was talking to you about the rewards offered by the plant body, especially to those organisms which will cause the pollination. These rewards may not be always in terms of the pollen grain or in terms of the nectar or in terms of the fruit. sometimes even in the form of a place for laying the eggs. Yes. So you have again learned this in the second chapter. Wasp especially is a good example where there is a tight one-to-one relationship of wasp and plant body, because wasps have been adapted to a kind of life cycle where they have to lay the eggs inside the fig. That is a safe place for laying the eggs. And in fact, the fig is also completely dependent upon the wasp, because it is only the wasp, because of its laying of the eggs inside the wasp fruit. So there pollination can occur, right? Mutualistic relationship. In such cases, in tight one-to-one situation, the co-evolution is a greater chance, right? And so in these cases, it means that a given species of fig can be pollinated only by its partner. That is, because both are very closely associated with each other and both are partners with each other. So partner, the wasp, will carry out the pollination, will help the pollination to undergo. In fact, so it is going to get a oviposition. Oviposition means it's a safe place for laying its eggs, right? And when it lays the eggs, and whenever it goes and incubates those eggs, it will disturb the flowers and cause the pollination to take place, right? So fig is the best example. And so the wasp pollinates the entire inflorescence, especially for searching when a suitable egg laying site. Egg laying site ಗಾಗಿ search ಮಾಡ್ತಿರಬಹುದು ಅಥವಾ incubate ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರಬಹುದು. So while moving around on the inflorescence of the fig, it will cause the pollination to take place. Right? So you can look at this diagram. So this is the single flower of the fig, right? And you can see this is an inflorescence, and you can also see the wasps moving around here. And these wasps, because of their movement inside this inflorescence, they will cause the pollination here, right? So this is a kind of mutualistic relationship where one-to-one, mutualistic relationship is very tightly bound. And another concept when we come across the mutualistic relationship is sexual deceit. It's a very interesting mechanism that you have to see, especially the mutualistic relationship when it is formed with the plant and the pollinator. So plant pollinator nalli, I told you, sometimes the plant will get will not be getting benefited, or they may get fooled, right? So that is what is called as deceptive pollination. Especially this takes place with respect to the orchids. Illi, in spite of the plant getting fooled, but plant makes the insect to get fooled. Illi fool ಆಗ್ತಿರೋದು plant ಅಲ್ಲ, insect. ಹೇಗೆ? How the plant is going to fool the insect is because, see, the plant mimics. It will just appear to the insect as the female individual. The male individual of the insect, it thinks that the flower as the female individual, and it tries to go and copulate. Have a physical association, especially for the process of reproduction, copulation. But that copulation turns out to be a pseudo copulation. That means it is not actually the copulation, right? There is no gamete transfer because there is no female individual at all. Isn't it? So that flower of the orchid itself will look like it looks like the female individual, and this male insect will be attracted towards that flower. So it thinks that it is a female individual and I should copulate, but it will sit and tries to copulate. But instead of copulation, instead of reproduction, what happens there? Pollination takes place. That means insect will not be benefited, only the plant will be benefited, right? But still it will be considered as a kind of mutualistic relationship, because insect may not be benefited in terms of what? In terms of the sexual reproduction, but it will be benefited in terms of getting the pollen grains or the nectar. That is why it can be considered as a mutualistic relationship. So the Mediterranean orchid called Orphis, so it is the best example for sexual deceit. So this is the Orphis is the plant body, right? So military orchid, Orphis, sexual deceit to get pollination done by a species of bee. So that is called as bumblebee anta karitivi, right? So this, in this case, pseudocopulation takes place, and this can be an evidence that is observed for co-evolution. Yake anta helidre, if the plant body, if the insect changes or evolves, the plant also have to evolve along with this, and it is also true for the both of them, right? So you can look at this diagram. So here, Orphis epiphyra, this is the structure of the flower. You can look at this petal, it looks exactly like that of the insect. Insect hage kanutta idu. This looks like the bumblebee. So female individual of the bumblebee, and you can look at this one, bumblebee. So this bee thinks what? This is the male bee. So it thinks that this is the female individual of the same species. It comes and sits to pollinate, sorry, not pollinate, for copulation. But instead of copulation, it happens to be what? Pseudocopulation. There is no reproduction taking place. So this will be fooled, but this gets pollinated. So this is what is called as deceptive pollination or sexual deceit anta kariteve, right? So these are the different types of interactions until now we have studied. So all of these are important. Along with the examples, you need to remember definition and the examples. Sometimes you may be asked to explain the examples also, right? So I will give a set of questions on this chapter. I will share that in the respective groups as per the batches. So you will have to submit it as per the mentioned date. So this is the end of this chapter, right? So next chapter we will consider later ecosystem. Thank you.